Thank you very much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the Tax Forum 2023 panel discussion. We'd like to invite the following panelists on stage. With over 20 years of industry experience, Mr. Nuwan has held many honorary positions at the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing since 2016, and thus far, which include Executive Committee member, Honorary Secretary, and serving as a Vice President Education consecutively for 2 years. In his 2 years tenure as a Vice President Education, he resecured SLIM Education and introduced the MBA in Marketing from Wrexham Glyndŵr University. He also initiated SLIM collaboration with Digital Marketing Institute of Ireland to offer upgraded international qualifications to SLIM digital marketing programs. He is currently serving as the President of Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. He was a founding project chairman of SLIM Digis, the first digital marketing award in Sri Lanka, adding another flagship award to the SLIM Award portfolio. He also was the project chairman of Brand Excellence Awards in 2017. Also served as a board member of Sri Lanka Rupawahini Corporation, has served as a board member of Lanka Biofuel Solutions and Global Peace Institute, Sri Lanka. Nuwan earned his MBA from University of Sri Jayewardenepura, and he also completed the postgraduate diploma in marketing at the same university. He is currently reading for his PhD at the University of Colombo in consumer behavior in the digital media context. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nuwan Gamage. Moving on to our next panelist, Professor Lakshman R. Watawala. Professor Lakshman R. Watawala is the president of CMA, who is also its founder president in 1999. Presently, he is a committee member of Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, chairman of Convention Committee, Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, director of Richard Peary's, and director of Transnational Lanka Record Solutions Private Limited, and council member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka. He had been the chairman and managing director of State Mining and Mineral Development Corporation, chairman of People's Bank and People's Merchant Bank, and chairman of Pan Asia Bank, and chairman and director general of Board of Investment of Sri Lanka. Professor Lakshman R. Watawala was the past president of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka and South Asian Federation of Accountants and the Organization of Professional Association of Sri Lanka and the apex body of professional organizations. He was the founder president of the Association of Accounting Technicians of Sri Lanka as well. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Professor Lakshman R. Watawala. Moving on to our next panelist of Tax Forum 2023 is Mr. Ken Vijayakumar. Mr. Ken Vijayakumar, a versatile businessman and people's professional, currently holding the position of Deputy General Manager, Human Resources Administration, Purchasing and Sustainability at A Power & Company Private Limited, was elected as President of CIPM Sri Lanka, the nation's leader in human resource management. Prior to his appointment as the president of CIPM Sri Lanka, he held office as a vice president in the preceding year and serving for 7 years in the CIPM Executive Council, including as an honorary secretary and honorary treasurer in his tenure at CIPM. Vijayakumar counts over 30 years of experience in the field of human resource management and gender management with prestigious appointments at Lanka Ceylon Limited, Watawala Plantations, Maize Holdings, Kills Plantations, Water's Edge, where he held managerial and senior managerial positions. He also held the position of regional head of HR for Malaysia at Good Hope Asia Holdings. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ken Vijayakumar. Mr. Tishan Subasingha is our next panelist. Mr. Subasingha is Chairman Faculty of Taxation, CA Sri Lanka, and a member of the Incumbent Council of CA Sri Lanka. Was appointed to the Member Development Committee, MDC, of CAPA. Mr. Subasingha is only Sri Lankan to serve in the 10-member MDC, which has representation from countries including Australia, United Kingdom, Japan, Canada, India, Pakistan, and Mongolia. Mr. Subasingha is a fellow member of CA Sri Lanka and has served the Institute's council since 2013. He has led several top committees at CA Sri Lanka, including the Examinations Committee, National Conference Committee, Annual Report Awards Committee, Transfer Pricing Guide Development Task Force, and the Committee for Developing Guidelines for Integrated Reporting. At present, Mr. Subasinghe serves as the Managing Director, Advisory at Moore Stevens Consulting Private Limited, and he is also the incumbent chair of the CAPA Conference Committee. He is a fellow member of CA Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tishan Subasinghe. And our final panelist is Mr. N.M.M. Mifli. Mr. N.M.M. Mifli joined our IRD as the assessor in 1993 through an open competitive exam and got several promotions as a senior assessor, deputy commissioner, commissioner, and a senior commissioner. Now works as a Deputy Commissioner General in charge of tax policy, legislation, rulings, and international tax policy. He participated in more than 25 local and international tax workshops, especially on base erosion and profit shifting, transfer, pricing, and double tax treaty negotiation. He has a wealth of knowledge in public administration and economics as a result of his Master of Public Administration and Bachelor of Economics degrees. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. N.M.M. Mifli. With that, ladies and gentlemen, to give a brief introduction about Tax Forum and also to moderate the panel discussion, we would like to invite Professor Devasiri N. Jayanta, Honorary Secretary of the SLIM Council of Management and Chairperson of the SLIM Marketing Education and Research Committee 2022-2023. Professor Jayanta N. Devasiri is a professor attached to the Department of Accountancy and Finance, Sabargama University of Sri Lanka. He is currently serving as a co-editor-in-chief of South Asian Journal of Marketing published by Emerald Publishing, managing editor of the Asian Journal of Finance and South Asian Journal of Tourism and Hospitality published by the Faculty of Management Studies. He is also serving as the Honorable Secretary and the Chairperson, the Marketing Education Research Committee at the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. He has been awarded for research excellence several times, including the University of Michigan International Mixed Methods Award, IIARI Luminary Award 2021 for research excellence, and several Best Paper Awards at many conferences. He is the main contributor to the introductory team of the data triangulation approach to the finance discipline. Recently, he has been accredited as a fellow chartered manager by the Chartered Institute of Management UK, considering his valuable contribution to research and academia. Emerald Publishing UK has appointed him as a brand ambassador for its South region. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to hand over the session to Professor Devasiri.
Very good evening, everyone. Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Honorable Ambassadors, diplomats, our valued panel members today, professionals representing all institutions, ESCO members, past presidents, members of the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, and ladies and gentlemen. So before giving you a brief, I would like to invite all the respective panel members to take their respective seats. Thank you very much. I take it as a great pleasure and honor to moderate this panel discussion on a contemporary issue in Sri Lanka, which is the newly implemented tax regime. The focal point of today's discussion will be based on pay tax, pay as you earn, or we call it as APIT. So why this has been a focal point for today's discussion? So that is a question for most of us. Before starting the panel discussion, I would like to give you a brief on why pay has become the focal point of today's discussion. Do you think that Sri Lanka's tax revenue is low compared to other countries in the South Asian region? What do you think? So you can see here Exhibit 1 that depicts the average tax revenue as a percentage of GDP from 2000 to 2019. when you look at the figures, it shows that Sri Lanka is recording the highest average tax revenue as a percentage of GDP. So we are ahead of other countries in the South Asian region with 12.32% as average tax revenue as a percentage of GDP. So what has happened? That is a question for most of us. When we look at the GDP ratio and per capita GDP move in opposite directions. So when we basically look at the tax revenue against the GDP per capita, we can see that there is an inverse relationship between these two variables. You can see on the exhibit 2. But it is against the researchers' findings across the world. So how it become negative? So it should be on positive move. So when GDP is growing up, the tax revenue should go up. What is the problem we do have? So the answer is, when we look at the GDP, so in our tax policy, we would have look at the industries which are contributing to the GDP, and proportionately we would have arranged the tax rates. That is the requirement we have not addressed in the past. When we look at the Sri Lanka's revenue to GDP ratio, that reached its lowest level since 1959 in 2020. So the average tax to GDP ratio from 1959 to 2020, that is 16%, we recorded around 7.6 in 2020. So what has happened in 2019 or 2020? That is a question. So what happened after 2019? You can see that, so in order to keep the election promises, the government had to revise the tax regime. In accordance with that, so they had to make revisions with regard to the value-added tax, so that has brought down from 15% to 8%. In addition to that, NBT, Nation Building Tax, of 2% was abolished, and combined with the Ports and Airport Development Levy, the tax on telecommunication tariff was reduced by 2.5%. In addition to that, few other tax revisions were made to the tax amendment. So, for an example, debit tax on banking and financial institutions, VAT on sovereign property, capital gains tax on the share market, pay as you earn, payee, that is abolished, and the mandatory requirement has been removed in 2020. So with that, we can see that 500 billion loss in the total tax revenue has occurred in 2020. So with that understanding, so as President Ranil Wickremesinghe stated, so we are in a crucial moment at this time. So in order to address these issues, we have to take some corrective measures. So now we look at the expected revenue, tax revenue in 2023. So based on the data obtained from the IRD, Inland Revenue Department, so we basically expect around 1,680 billion Sri Lankan rupees for 2023. So that is the expectation. So in order to meet that, so we have taken some revenue growth, expected revenue growth in 2023. You can see here, income tax, the expectation is around 148% compared to the last year. In addition to that, from value-added tax, we expect around 189% growth, and also total tax revenue, we expect around 194% growth. So approximately we achieved around 860 billion in 2022. That is not in the report right now. The report has not been finalized yet. But the problem is, with regard to the pay tax, the expected growth is around 400% compared with other tax rates growth, so it is basically compared to that, that is a very high amount, high growth rate. So it basically threatens the basic principles of tax policy. There are four basic principles of tax policy. One is fairness, fairness in the sense that there should be a fairness to the tax holders or pay holders in order to pay the tax in line with fulfilling their family and personal needs. That is the fairness. That is the basic principles of tax policy. In addition to that, certainty aspect should be there, so the tax payers should be informed how and why they are taxed. That is important. In addition to that, it should be convenient for the taxpayers in order to pay the tax. So here the convenience is not devoted for the government, but devoted for the taxpayers' convenience. So the last part, that is devoted for the benefit of the government, how efficient is the tax collection. So by looking at this, you may argue that this is not fair, 400% growth compared with other taxes, that is a very high amount. So this concern is there, that's why we have taken pay as the focal point of discussion today. In addition to that, when we look at the international standards for income categories, so you can see here poor categories, that is below $2 per day per capita income. That is the expectation. Assume that there are 5 members in the family, so they need to have 111,000 income per family for the poverty line. So you know that 100,000 is the lowest tax bracket. Here the poverty line is around 111,000, meaning that we are hitting the poverty line of the country. So fairness concern is already there. In addition to that, when we look at low middle category, so per capita income per day, that is around $2 to $4. So 222,000 is needed. So when we look at the figures for middle, that is 333,000. So the highest tax bracket in the current tax regime, that is 308,000, around that. So that meaning that it is below the middle category, 308,000, that is below 333,000, meaning that the current tax policy hit the poverty line and also the lower middle category in addition to the middle and upper middle categories. So that's why it has taken as the pay has taken as the focal point for the discussion today. In addition to that, when we discuss about the tax revenue, the highest tax revenue in Sri Lankan history, it was recorded in 2019. That is 1,025 billion in 2019. So we can have a comparison between 2019 and also 2023 by having the figures in place. So first we will look at the economic indicators. When we look at the inflation, so 2019 inflation, official inflation, it was around 3.53, whereas 2023, the official inflation is 54.20, which is 15 times higher than 2019. In addition to that inflation rate, if you take the policy interest rates, official interest rate, standard deposit facility rates and standing lending facility rate, it was around 7 and 8%, but currently it is around 14.5 and 15.5. Again, it has been doubled. So exchange rate, it has been double, meaning that Sri Lankan rupee has been depreciated by 200%. So we are in a situation where the inflation is very high, interest rate has grown up, and exchange rate that has been doubled. So when we look at the prices under the inflation, so fuel price, petrol 92, so it was around 138 LKR per liter, and it has went up till 400 LKR. Cooking gas 1,500, it has been, increased to 5,000 3 times, and electricity bill compared to 2019, 200% increment is there. So let's look at the lowest pay tax bracket and maximum pay tax rate now. So compared to 2019 and 2023, lowest pay tax bracket it was 100,000 in 2019. So as President is stated, we had to bring down to 100,000 due to so many reasons. So we respect that point, but the 100,000, keeping 100,000 under these economic conditions, economic recession, while hitting the poverty line, that has a concern of fairness and also certainty why it has been imposed that is not informed to the public. So if you can inform why this is imposed, so this will be addressed. So in addition to that, this basically hit the poverty line. That is also a concern. In addition to that, when we look at the maximum pay rate, it was around 24% in 2019, whereas 36% in 2023. So in 2019, the highest tax bracket, so if you are exceeding 350,000, so there will be a 24%. Currently, it has bring down to 308,000. So hitting the lower middle class categories. So fairness and certainty, principles of the tax policy, that has been affected, that has been threatened. That's why we have taken out of the numerous taxes being amended, pay tax as the focal point for the today's discussion. So the last point, moving up to the last point, when we compare the tax regime in 2023, so non-individual or corporate tax maximum rate, it is at 30%. It is at 30%. But pay tax on individual, the maximum rate, it is at 36%. Meaning that there is a concern here why individuals are paying highly tax while having some relief for the corporates. So there are no any other countries, the individuals are heavily taxed like this. So in addition to that, the tax regime 2023, corporates, they pay taxes out of net profit after deducting, after subtracting all the expenses, operating expenses and all other expenses including like current bill, then in addition to that water bill. But here, the pay tax on individuals, that is based on the salary, gross salary. So the expenses have not been deducted. So here, it has taken net profit is equivalent to salary in this time. So fairness concern is here, certainty concern is here. So the convenience that has been threatened, that's why we have taken the pay tax as the focal point of discussion today. So with that note, I would like to start the panel discussion. I appreciate that our valued panel members waited for this moment. Thank you very much. So as you know, so as I highlighted, so this newly implemented tax regime that could have impact on the poverty line and also lower middle income category and also the middle income category. So when it hits the middle income category, so you know that 80% of the loans, then 85% of the leases and also insurance facilities that is devoted for this middle income category professionals. So with that understanding, I would like to proceed with the first question from Mr. Tisan Subasinghe, the chairman of tax faculty of CS Sri Lanka. Sir, what are the salient changes to the tax law that would have an impact on the individuals, especially the employees?
Thank you, Professor Jayantha. You set the platform by taking us through some important information. In that context, let me quickly take you all through some of the salient changes from the previous tax law to tax law with effective from 1st January 2023. Now, Professor Jayantha, the main thing is reduction of tax-free personal allowance from 3 million rupees to 1.2 million rupees per annum, 100,000 rupees per month. Then reduction of each tax slab from 3 million to 500,000 rupees. What you stated 2020, the figures which you gave. So what happened in 2020, there have been certain changes. I'll go into details. You know how it affected our government revenue and what happened aftermath. Then changing of progressive rates from 6% to 12% to 18% in the previous tax regime to 6%, 12%, 18%, 24%, 30% and 36% at 500,000 rupee interval. Then a removal of expenditure relief of 1.2 million rupees in full, because previously some of these expenditure like medical, then insurance, education for children, etc., being allowed for tax purposes to be deducted from the assessable income. Then tax-free interest allowance on senior citizens is not reintroduced. Then tax-free employment allowance is not reintroduced. That is again 1.2 million rupees. Then introduction of a 15% mandatory withholding tax on dividends, which is considered as a final tax. Then introduction of 5% mandatory withholding tax on interest. And now let me touch on one of the recent announcement by the Inland Revenue Department focusing non-cash benefits. Non-cash benefit, because with that circular announcement, some confusion has been raised in the market. It shouldn't have happened in that way. Now, I will quickly run through and then I'll focus on where the confusion had risen. The residence provided by employer, if it is a rated area, 12.5%, unrated area, 10%, estate area, 7.5% of the cash salary considered for pension provident funds. Then company shares awarded by employer to employees, issue days market value less employee contribution. Hotel facilities for expatriates, 100% of the costs being treated as non-cash benefits. Loans on concessionary interest rates, 0% of the cost, which means no benefit to be recognized. Medical benefits, electricity, meal, air tickets and gas, etc., 100% of the cost. Yes. Medical and health insurance expense, 100% of the cost being treated as non-cash benefits. So employee has to pay taxes on those. Telephone bills, 50% of the cost. Telephone communication bills, 25% of the cost. Payment of tax, amount of the tax paid. Now here's the problem. Now, I also serve on certain boards, including a bank, insurance company, and certain other PLCs. Retention of the qualified staff is of paramount importance. So, more than any of these, what I see, yes, we have this immediate threat of tackling the financial crisis, and Sri Lanka being a small nation with 22 to 23 million of population. We have the advantage of the smallness. We are a small country with up to 22 million population. So we will eventually come out of this, right? But the thing is, afterwards, now who's going to take part in the sustainable development of this nation? It's a huge problem that I see. At the rate at which these youngsters, I can understand. They can, soon after their qualification, go abroad, get some foreign exposure, build up their own wealth, capital, and they can always get back. But now, the issue is, even the mid-tier professionals, they also leave the country with their families, and with that, the tacit knowledge that they have captured across the industries, they are taking away, which would be a huge problem going forward, right? Then changes to non-cash employee benefit. Now this is interesting. Vehicle-related benefits by employer, partly used for private use of the employee on a vehicle other than motor bicycle, yes, 20,000 rupees for the vehicle, 10,000 for driver, 20,000 for fuel. But the next one, government employees owned rented vehicle, 25% on one vehicle and 100% on additional vehicles. It means 25% of the cost incurred by employer for payment to employee and 25% of the payment made to employee on fuel. That's where I see the discrimination, Professor Jayant. Now, this particular circular issued by the Inland Revenue Department, you would have noted there was huge publicity on this. Some tax concessions being given on non-cash benefits. But what does it say? So this benefit will be given for official use to that employee under any circular, directive or regulation issued in that behalf by the government. So it has excluded the private sector. So there's discrimination with between the private sector and public sector. Not only that, even within the public sector, there's a discrimination. So who's getting these kind of allowances? The public corporation chairperson, maybe the ministers, right? And the other furniture allowance, etc. given. Same principle being applied. So that's where the discrimination. So where's the fairness? You mentioned about the fairness. Where's the fairness? So what would happen? Now people who could lobby on these things, tap the right personnel and they get what they want. And this is not fair actually. So all are facing this issue. And now as the Honorable President stated, we all cannot escape from this. But then here some people are escaping from it.
Yes.
Right? That's where the problem starts. Then next time when the budget comes, all other parties will go and establish their case. We want that. If not, we will go into streets. That's how even the tax law gets complicated. And okay, I have mainly focused on these individual taxation. Even when it comes to companies, previously there were mainly 4 rates, 14%, 18%, then 24% and 40%. Yes. Now it's flat 30% and 40%. For partnership tax, it remains at the 6%. So these are the salient changes. There are many other changes, but then, I'm not going into nitty-gritties. These are the overall salient changes, Professor Jayant.
Thank you, Mr. Tishan, for your...
If you don't mind, I need another 2 minutes. Is it okay?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now let's see where this money is going to. Now, Honorable President mentioned, yes, he touched on the primary deficit. 2021, 1 trillion primary deficit. 2022, 954 billion deficit. 2023, 211 deficit with the increased taxes. Then 2025, we are expecting 567 billion surplus. Yes. Right? Then budget deficit. 2021, 2 trillion budget deficit, 2022, 2.3 trillion deficit, 2023, even with the increased taxes, 2.4 trillion budget deficit. And this is mainly contributed by the increase in interest. We have been printing money at higher rates, so some 1.3 trillion had added on to interest payments. Then tax revenue, 2019 we got 1.7 trillion, 2020 due to changes in the tax rates and certain concessions given dropped to 1.2 trillion, 2021 1.9 trillion, sorry 1.29 trillion, 2022 1.85 trillion and 2023 this year we are expecting 3.1 trillion, that is 1.3 trillion increase. So all these increases are expected to raise additional 1.3 trillion rupees as revenue. Then tax revenue to GDP, I think previously mentioned, I am not going into detail. I want to touch on this, recurrent expenditure to GDP. And this we are not actually discussing much. Right? Yes. 2021, recurrent expenditure to GDP, 15.5%. 2022, 15.2%. 2023, 15.2%. So yes. No, I don't see any move to reduce these recurrent expenditure. So
Expenditure.
people would be paying taxes, and that is the position that we are taking. Yes, we do understand tax revenue to be increased, but on the other hand, if the policymakers can come up with a plan to say, look, pay these taxes for X number of months or years, and within this period, we would be taking measures to cut down on our expenditure, especially a recurrent expenditure. And this is how we are going to do it. You and I, everybody will cooperate for a plan like that. But here, we don't see any plan that.
Yes,
like
I
that.
would agree with
So
you.
it raises the question, why should we pay this? So where's the plan? And recurrent expenditure remains the same, the recurrent expenditure to GDP. So that's where we need to raise, that's where we need to demand accountability, governance, transparency.
Transparency, yes. Thank you, Mr. Tisan, for your insightful answer. So my next question goes to Mr. Nuwan Gamage, the president of the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. So I would like to ask how the current pay tax has impacted on the marketing professionals and also consumer behavior overall.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Jayanta. So answering to your question, before that actually I will bring some of the notice of the research conducted by Kantar Research in November. So hopefully situation must have changed now, but I will table this for the audience. So basically they have identified basket value of the expenditure of all the item of Sri Lanka at that time, November 2022, was about 61,000, right? Out of that, 1/3 is going to spend on grocery item, where I think most of the marketers here, I think 80% of our marketers who are sitting here accountable for that. Most of the people are working for FMCG industries. And that has been increased 60% at that time. Now you can see the issue, because after this taxation of pay tax, you are getting now probably the salary that you enjoyed 4 years ago. At the same time, inflation has taken a quite a sufficient portion of your disposable income. You hit in multiple ways, right? With that, in a consumer behaviors, we can see a lot of changes, especially if you look at in purchasing patterns of supermarket, impulsive buying completely reduced.
Yes.
They always go with the market list or a shopping list. They never look at here and there, because you don't have deep pocket to purchase whatever the things that come across to you day-to-day basis. At the same time, in the other hand, most of the sales people and the marketing people, when it comes to corporate, taxing and all these implemented, and the recession time, first to cut training and development budget, second, they are putting their hands to marketing budget, where you don't have much marketing budget to utilize and attract your consumer. In the other hand, the sales force.
Yes.
Sales is a function of marketing. Again, sales force, they have been given an unrealistic target to achieve, but in the other side, consumer behaviors are changing, therefore, they are not in a position to perform. At the same time, their salaries being taxed. Whatever the commission that they are earning, at least earning, getting a target, reaching a target of 50%, that's also being taxed. In that way, we have seen a lot of, sales profession are now changing their jobs. Those who are having experience, migrating, and those who are having less experience, trying to fill that gap, but skill and tacit knowledge, as he mentioned, is not there. Then there will be huge training and development budget to be executed to take them into that level. So those are the kind of area and challenges that as a marketer is facing. Apart from that, there are many challenges. If you look at other categories like fuel and hospitality, even for the health, there's a increment of health expenditure. Again, 27%. So most of the medicines are not available. Plus, again, those who are working in the pharmaceutical sector, again, are facing huge difficulties. So that's a little bit that I can add to your question,
Yes,
Professor
thank
Jayanta.
you, Mr. President. So, with that, we can clearly see that the money inflow from the middle and lower middle categories to the poor categories, that will be lower with regard to this implementation. So, meaning that SME sector that could have been impacted, as is stated by Mr. Nuwan. So with that, I would like to ask the next question from Professor Laxman R. Vatavala, the President of CMS Sri Lanka. So how the new taxation has impacted the professionals across the country?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, first of all, let me thank the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing for organizing this tax forum and inviting us, because I see it's not only the marketeers who are here, but the accounting profession, then also the HR profession, and of course the Inland Revenue Department are also here. Now, I think one of the main reasons that you would have organized this tax forum is, of course, to tell your members about these new tax policies and as to what sort of things are there. And I don't know, can't see that you are going to get any benefits, but certainly what contribution you have to be made. So if you really look at this tax forum, we had a keynote speaker. You see, you have invited the Honorable President of this country, and he really gave the justification. You see, he said, this is a rescue operation. So I think in this context, I don't know how we are going to contest this, because as professionals, we have to see how we can really develop this country. Because if you really look at it, we have been, I think from what we heard, serious problems. You see, the budget deficit is there. Then, of course, the government debt to GDP is high, maybe over 100%. Then the fiscal imbalance is there. Foreign currency shortage, depreciation of the currency. Then the poor credit ratings, we are really in the dumps. Then, of course, revenue enhancement. Now, revenue enhancement is doing by increasing the tax. But where is the expenditure rationalization? This is something that he missed in his speech. Because you see, if you really look at the increase in the price of electricity, you see, they say, the IMF said that it should be based on a cost-reflective pricing. You see, cost-reflective pricing does not mean that you can put all the inefficiencies, you can put all the wastages, you can put all the corruption and ask the society to pay this. So this, maybe they have done it now, but within 6 months, if they don't correct this situation, I think they will have to be closed down. You see, people of this country can't bear what they have done now, because they have to now bear these additional taxes. Similar way, they must try to bring this down. Now even they are talking of increasing the price of water. You see, they will say cost. They have no cost records, because I come from a profession of management accounting and also financial accounting. You see, there are no cost records. You see, if you go to the electricity board, they must maintain cost records to come and justify and say, this is the cost of production, this is the generation cost. I don't know whether you know that if you use water, the cost of production is only 290. Then, if you are using coal, then it will be maybe 9 rupees and 90 cents. If you use fuel, it will be 29 and 9. So what happens is, if there is mismanagement, if the proper procedures are not done, if they don't order the raw materials on time, the supply chain is not working properly, inefficiencies the people have to pay. Now the people are paying the sins of the earlier people. The earlier, because you see, there is no accountability. Without accountability, you can't run a country. Now, the Honorable President spoke. Did he talk of anyone who was accountable for this mess? Who put us into this position? They must be all behind bars. You see, if people run this in such an inefficient way, because you see, after a budget, even the private sector are clapping. 2019, they clapped the highest because they reduced the taxes. Now today, they have to open their eyes. You see, actually, we have not been analyzing these things properly. Only now we have opened our eyes. We are now feeling the pinch. Now, we have conducted tax webinars. The highest number of people are coming for tax webinars, 1,000 people. Because they have to pay an additional amount. You see, unless our people realize this, I don't think we can never develop. You see, they have to realize. You see, I think we should go the Japanese way. All these people who are protesting should go to their workplace and work efficiently as possible. Increase their targets. And then all these humbugs will get caught. The raw material will not be there, the fuel may not be there. Then they can say, you are really not performing your job. So I think we have to take a different turn. A lot of the people have not understood what we are doing. Today these tax, because you see, the president said, but president, now I just want to tell one thing that he said. He said, we are increasing the prices. You see, I was also chairman of a corporation, but how did I make it profitable? I increased the efficiency. I introduced technology. That is how we did it. You see, if we do that, you see, just look at the queues that are there. The petrol queues, you started the QR system. So everything, you see, if the tax department wants to collect the tax, you see, today, you all are paying, professionals are paying, employees are paying. Why are they paying? Because their name is there. If you don't deduct, you will get hammered. The employer will get hammered and you will get hammered. But there are so many who are not doing. So we must get this digital identity. How did India do it? India did it that way. You see, now is the time to do it. If we don't do it now, we will never be able to come out of this. We have to change our attitudes. We have to see how we can bring this country out of this. As professionals, we have to do that. So that's why I am saying, because today, as said, we are in a very difficult situation, a very painful situation. You see, people are not having the money to buy things. Now they are saying, of course, they are taxing the people who are getting some income. Now I can just tell you one thing. Now we had a recent tax seminar, then certain professors from the universities came. So they are saying, okay, we are maybe senior professors, we will pay the tax. But we want to save the younger people. The younger ones who have just come from abroad, they have got their PhDs and come. You see, if they have to pay this tax, they will not stay here. There is no saving, they can't buy a car, they can't buy a house, nothing, no saving. Then they will say they'll get an appointment elsewhere. So, there are certain categories that we need to look at. I am not saying that everyone, but now say the universities, then the technical people. Now, I think Dishan mentioned about the BPO. You see, now what they are saying in the BPO industry are earning money in foreign exchange. So I work for them, you tax me. Is that fair? No, I think then they must work out a method, or the government must say, if you are earning foreign exchange, you can pay that man in foreign exchange and he can be exempt from tax. You see, these are few matters that we need to take. Today, it's no point trying to criticize. As professionals, we have to find solutions. We have to show them the way how it can be taken. That is how it will work. You see, shouting on the road will take us nowhere. Even if another party comes, even if someone comes, they have to face the same situation. That's why I said, give an alternate plan. Can you give an alternate plan? You see, that is the thing. But they can use good people, they can good professionals. So no professionals have been always involved in this government situation. No, actually, even the parliamentary system is such that they have not taken the professionals. That's why they are in this mess. If they use good professionals, you see, there were even when President J.R. Jayawardena made this constitution, there were the nominated members. Did any party use that one? They should have got very intelligent people, made them ministers. and then they will run the country. Others can go to the electorate and pay their banchun, but these people will run the country. So, but they did not use it. What happened? The last government, I remember, they appointed 10 or 12 people, all who lost the elections. You see, this is the thing. So we have to maybe look at these people and correct this situation. So today, I'm very happy that this is being done because professionals have to take a different role. You see, I can tell you the wastages that are there. Now say doctors are saying that there is no drugs. Then you see, we have to have cost management. I would like to suggest now, I think the Honorable President said in Parliament, he must have expenditure management. In India, do you know that there is a separate ministry for expenditure management in the finance ministry? Then these people control everyone. What is the expenditure you are doing? How are you using this money? We have what is called the value creation. You are just dumping this money, but you are not creating any value. Now, these are the whole problems that are there. So, this expenditure management, cost management are very important. Now, if you take the power generation, they must, I told you, must maintain cost records. Then they must do a cost audit. From the cost audit, they will find, are you efficient? What is your wastage? Now, are you going to pass this on to the society? Now, we have worked out what is called the societal cost. All these corruption, wastages, all these things are ultimately paid because you should know that all the losses incurred by the CEB, you have to now pay. At that time, if the government gave a subsidy, government must give that to the CEB. But now they are saying, we have no money, so put it on the people. You see, these are the things. So let them do it at least for 6 months, but if they do not correct their situation, people will have to rise up. That's what I'm saying, not now. Give them a chance. Tell them you correct this situation, maintain your cost records, improve your efficiency, to run the organizations properly, and then do it. So I think this is an area which I think it's more than taxation. Taxation we have to pay. I know no one will like to do that. Now people going abroad, now look at, I just like now, Professor Devasiri is there from the universities. What is the problem? Who are the people who are going overseas? Now these people who have a technical knowledge, people who are professionals, who can get a job overseas. So we must try to retain them. Then on the universities, they are going for studies overseas. So then we must try to take action where we can educate these people in Sri Lanka, and immediately after they qualify, by 21, 22, they must become graduates, not when 25, 26. So these are simple things that we can do. We now have to change this whole thing, otherwise I do not think that we can go very far.
Thank you, Professor Wattawala, for your insightful answer. So indeed, I do agree with the statement made by Professor Wattawala stating that we should have an alternate plan. So as mentioned by Honorable President, so if this is not correct, you should come up with the alternative plan. So what is the alternate plan? So actually, with regard to this, before having this discussion today, we as professional institution had a discussion between all the professional institutions in Sri Lanka, including CS Sri Lanka, CMA Sri Lanka, CIPM, SLIM Sri Lanka, CIMA Global, and all other institutions, and we discuss on a plan, and we are going to appoint a committee in order to come up with an alternate plan for this. Otherwise, the country would be in a trouble in future. So in order to address this, we will come up with an alternative plan. So within the course of next 2 months' time, so all the professional institutions will get together and come up with a plan to address this issue. So with that note, I would like to ask the next question from Mr. Ken, President of CIPM, how the current pay tax has impacted on the HR professionals and human resource of an organization as overall.
Thank you. I think, as you all know, the HR professionals are having sleepless nights these days, as you all know, because the employees have so many grievances with regard to their disposable income. The disposable income has come down by 40%, 40 to 45%. They need to pay their housing loans, their vehicle lones. In spite that, you've got to maintain your vehicles, you have to maintain your status, you have to maintain your vehicles. What's the price of a tire? What's the cost of the insurance? How do they maintain? So they are coming to companies, and through HR, they are trying to ask for assistance from the companies. Of course, some companies, I was told that, some of the tax has been reimbursed. But the other companies are in the contrary. How do they do that? Will they be, sustainable if they do that? Because their cost of, the HR costs will rise up. And how can be competitive in their market? Increasing the HR cost. So these are some of the problems, I think, as HR professionals we have been discussing. Also, as Professor Vadavala quite correctly said, what is the austerity measures taken by the government? The tamashas are still continuing. Where are they showing simple austerity measures? And for the politicians, are they reducing their, the fuel allowances, the drivers, the ministry expenditures? Where are they? Can you see any of those, in the news item? And they are only, telling the professionals and the others to, pay for the sins, that the president said you have to pay for the sins. Of course, we can pay for our sins if the cost of living is, down by, whatever percentage. Now, the cost of living is about 70%. All the professor said is about 54%. But, the central bank itself said about 70%. So can we, we can pay for our sins, but we, enjoyed last couple of years. But can we pay now? We can't. Because I know a lot of employees, they are pawning their jewelries. The HR will know because it's come as a grievance to us. They are pulling their savings. They are selling their land to pay for their, pay for their school fees. Some of the people have been educated overseas. Some of them are educated here. But, they can't manage. And if they pull out the savings, if there are no savings, how can the country have the GDP growth? Because there's no investment. So these are some of the issues, faced by, as people professionals, how do we, resurrect? So as everyone said, we all should give counter proposals. I think we were discussing, Professor said, with Nuan and all of us, we are having a plan to give counter proposals. How about, everybody spoke, how about the loss-making government institutions? They spoke about, during the budget discussion in the parliament, about Sri Lankan Airlines and other government-owned entities. What are they doing? Now all forgotten. So only professionals are being victimized. So we will give the counter proposals with all those taken into consideration, how to run the organization efficiently. We can also propose how to improve productivity in organizations with our expertise. So we will give a comprehensive plan to the government. So that's it from me, Professor.
Thank you, Mr. Ken, for your insightful answer. So my next question goes to Mr. Mifli, Deputy Commissioner General, Tax Policy in Sri Lanka. So I would like to take the question from Mr. Tishan, that is from the non-cash benefit. So, so it is alleged that the recently issued circular by the CGIR on calculation of non-cash benefits is discriminatory against the private sector employees versus public sector employees. Not only that, within the public sector employees itself. So what is your view about it? Can you explain it?
Thank you, Professor Devasiri. In fact, I cannot disagree with Mr. Subhasinghe said in terms of the discrimination in taxation of the non-cash benefit. In fact, first of all, I want to say, in fact, I am not representing the Ministry of Finance, which is responsible for making tax policies.
Yes, we know that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am representing the Department of Inland Revenue, which is in charge of the implementing or enforcing the tax policies made by others.
Others, agree.
In fact, there is, I am rather reluctant to use the word discrimination. Yes, there is a different treatment of taxation of the not only non-cash benefit, even the cash benefits received by the different sectors of the employees. For example, in terms of the housing benefit, earlier the housing benefit was calculated based on the remuneration. Remuneration means total employment income. But with the recent circular, housing benefit is calculated based on the salaries. Salaries are defined, that is what is considered for the WNOP and for the Provident Fund.
Yes.
You know, WNOP is paid by the government sector employees, which is on the basic salary.
Yes.
But Provident Fund is paid by the private sector employees on the gross salary. So in that aspect also, there is a different treatment. For example, housing benefit is treated on the basic salary in terms of the government sector employees, but at the same time, housing benefit is treated on the gross salary in terms of the private sector employees. Similarly, as Mr. Subhasinghe explained, transport allowances also, 25% is taxed in terms of the government sector employees, while the 100% is taxed in terms of the private sector employees. So there are two types of different treatment in terms of taxation of the two different types of employees.
Yes. We will make sure that these issues will be addressed when we are making the proposals together by appointing a committee by the all the professionals institutions in Sri Lanka, so as we agreed upon. So my next question goes to again Mr. Tishan Subhasinghe. So the chairman of the tax faculty of CA Sri Lanka. So you know, chartered accountants, they act as intermediaries between the taxpayers and tax authorities. So my first question, what kind of feedback you get from the taxpayers? And the second question, as per your understanding, what are the amendments needed to achieve the principles of fairness of tax policy while achieving the revenue target? That would be a difficult question.
Yeah, Professor Devasiri, yes, the feedback that we get from various stakeholders as being intermediaries happen to be, very bad. So my worry is, short term we may collect taxes, but not easily with the greatest difficulty. I was having a chat with Mr. Mifli and he was explaining. But then medium to long run, people would be scared of taxation. And as Honorable President said, yes, this is a rescue operation, but then before that, the individuals have to rescue their families, pay their children's schools, we have to live. And when we go to, and unfortunately, as you rightly stated at the beginning, the hit is on the, the upper middle class who had earned up the way in the ladder, who had, maintained some kind of even personal discipline by having sound education, had sacrificed a lot of things and committed to education and had some success in the society. They are actually now suffering. So that's the kind of feedback. And on top of that, whenever you see these kind of discrimination, that's very bad. So people get further hurt and further discouraged, and they will obviously get them disassociated with cooperating with whatever the moves announced by the policymaker. You can't avoid it. And in terms of bringing in changes, it's a difficult question. I went into numbers. Even with the increased revenue, we are going to still end up in a budget deficit. It's in trillion rupees. But it's like this, whatever we do, we need to look at the basic principles within which a good tax policy is formulated. So what are those? I mean, you mentioned some. Let me again just mention: economic efficiency, administrative simplicity, flexibility, political responsibility, and fairness. I would like to touch upon the last two: political responsibility and fairness. That's where we are actually lacking. Now, where's the political responsibility in terms of policy formulation when these kind of discriminations been brought in at the very early stage? Now, you just go through the budget proposals soon after the elections, when you look at the concessions given, you will be able to identify who had contributed to whom, right? That's how it works. I mean, these things, I think we should bring it to the, I mean, an ordinary citizen we may not understand, but then when we go through, we know that, okay, from where the funds would have been gone into, various parties, etc. Then the thing is now, okay, I could remember some time back there was this big noise regarding, okay, the audits, what the auditors had been doing all this time, etc. But they just go to National Audit Office website and see the audit reports of most of these loss-making public corporations. I mean, the auditors' reports been throughout qualified. But then what happens? These reports go to the parliament, then it's been referred to the COPE. And for me, I don't know, COPE seems to be just a media show. That's how I have seen it. I mean, maybe not their fault, but then to enforce action against those culprits who had wasted the public money, that's where we need to touch. Either the COPE has to be empowered to go pell-mell and take action, or the Auditor General has to be empowered to go and enforce action. And the way that it's happening at the moment, I don't think that the accountability can be promoted. And the way that I agree with Professor Watwal also, I don't think that immediately we can, make huge changes to the tax framework that's been introduced. We need revenue. But having said that, we need to push for a plan which should bring down government expenditure. Right? And I don't see that kind of a plan. So that's of paramount important. And above all, we need to maintain fairness in whatever the context, because the citizens of the country do not deserve to be discriminated.
Yes, I agree with you. So thank you, Ms. Disan. With that, my next question goes to Mr. Nuwan Gamage. So, as per your opinion, so what are the suggestions for amendments for pay tax, specifically, in resolving the ongoing social unrest while securing the revenue target?
Answering to your question, Professor, so basically when I do some research about, because I'm not a tax expertise, so I found out these 4 words: fairness, certainty, convenience, and efficiency. That should be the main 4 criteria to be incorporated with the tax policy of any country. If you look at, I don't want to reiterate because so many people discuss about the fairness. So there's no such fairness that we can see, especially in pay tax. And certainty, and as well as not convenience at all. And efficiency. So I just want to add one thing. I think Professor Watawal also mentioned this thing. So in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, the government has spent about 10 billion rupee to bringing this Revenue Administration Management Information System. ROMIS, yeah. So I didn't see that actually, because it's not actually you making this kind of a system, you have to run the system as well. So if you look at developed countries, tracing one, maybe your national ID number or anything, you can compile all the information into one system. So I think it's very right time for country like us to bring that kind of a system in place, especially taking the support of all the tech companies here in Sri Lanka. And it's not difficult task for me, because if you look at the country like USA and Canada, kind of big countries are running with the big population. We again, as he mentioned.
Are you discussing about a digital ecosystem?
Yes, digital ecosystem where you get this efficiency come on board. So otherwise, people actually who just liable to pay tax are, going out of this thing. But those who are like, middle income earners always sitting in this bracket. So therefore, it's very right time answering your first question. And the second reason that I see, I personally, as a marketing professional, I'm actually happy to do some privatization of these, public utilities. Because I will share one of the experience that I personally experienced. I was appointed for Rupavahini Corporation Board for 8 months, very short tenure. So Secretary of the Mass Media invited me for one of the budget presentation. Senior accountant of Rupavahini Corporation presented the budget, and is a loss-making budget, and filled the deficit. She has put government subsidies. Then I told Minister, this is the first time I'm seeing a budget prepared for loss and put in the government subsidies. Then that lady replied me, sir, if we taken out this thing, if we make a losses, this part will not be coming in the national treasury, so they are not paying us. So that's why. So we have to bring this corporate culture to this organization. Otherwise, you can put a tax on tax, but inefficient, organization like this always carry a burden for a country like us. So I think, I don't know whether the audience will agree with me, but best example is Sri Lanka Telecom. So if you can imagine, before the privatization, how long you have to be in the queue to get the telephone line to your company, your house. Now they are giving a run to another telco, private telco companies, especially in Mobitel. Look at the efficiency. So you have to bring that culture. So that's one area. So I think I have answered your question, Professor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rohan, for your answer. So my next question goes to Professor Lakshman or Vatawala. So it is stated that taxing those employed are on a strict criteria. However, those are in the business sector have more flexibility and can avoid taxation. What is your view about it?
Thank you, Professor Devasiri. I just want to speak a few things on what the president of
Go ahead.
the Marketing Institute mentioned. No, actually, I don't know whether you know that our professional bodies, I think the company announced that we want to be Sri Lankan, but we are national professional bodies. We are incorporated by an act of parliament which gives the same recognition as a university. Then how do we find our money? You see, I am telling this because today we are bankrupt. But if the government wants to do anything, they must follow what we are doing. What our Chartered Institute is doing, our Marketing Institute is doing, our Personal Institute is doing, our Management Accounting Institute is doing, because we are not dependent on government money. So today, if you want to develop this country, I think we are non-profit making. We are not profit-making bodies. So I think all of you should be proud that we are not dependent on the money. But what the government does is hurting us. So we need to tell them what has to be done. So that's one thing. Then the other thing you were talking about, not you, the others, about this fuel allowance and traveling, But do you know that the biggest import to this country is the fuel imports, $4.9 billion US. You see, in Singapore, to enter the city, they said, if you are coming in a car, have 3 or 4 passengers. You see, this government has to take some drastic measures. All these government servants coming in cars, the largest number of vehicles are owned by the government departments. Tell them you bring 4 or 5 people in your vehicles. Why are you just running these only for one person? I think these are things that the government must do to save money. They don't know expenditure control. If they ask me, I will go and give them free advice as to how they can control expenditure, because this is how we have to do, because in today's situation, if we have to shout from our side, otherwise those fools will not listen. They have to open their eyes. They have to know how the poor people in this country are suffering. Then only that because you see, all your taxpayers' money, where is it going? It is going to pay the government servants. 70% of our budget, government servants. All these should be cut. Not their salaries, but there are so many other expenses. All should be cut. If they go, you see, we have to make a determined effort. Now they have increased the tax. We are sacrificing. We say, okay, we are paying because there is no other way we can. Then they also must sacrifice. This is the message that we have to give as a professional body. Now these professional bodies, you see, if you are an employee, you know that definitely you are taxed. But now there are others who are doing consultancy. Doctors are doing private practice. Then it goes as a profession or vocation. So what happens? Now even if you pay your membership subscription to a professional body, you can't deduct it. No deductions allowed. But if you are running your profession, you can deduct it. So you can deduct all the expenses. Because I find that if this sort of taxation goes, in future, all will be consultants. There will be no employees in companies. All will be consultants because they will get the salary, they will charge all their expenses, and they will say, this is the amount that you have to pay. So that's what I'm saying. We now have to come with also new ideas, work from home. Why not? Now all the IT professionals in this country working from home. They have cut down the heavy expenditure on the rent. But our government servants, look at their buildings they are having. Look at how much of wastage. So these are things that we have to open the eyes of the government. Today, our being there, our working hard, our paying high taxes will be of no use if these people take this money and waste it. We should not allow this to go. We have to come forward as professionals. I must thank the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing because now at least 5 or 6 professional bodies are here. Let us take this forward and then make this claim so that we will be able to show the way how this country could be run. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Vatavara. So my next question goes to Mr. Ken, President of CIPM. Last question for you. Since we are running out of time, so what are the suggestions for amendments for pay tax in resolving the ongoing social unrest while fulfilling IMF requirements, the tax revenue? So what sort of suggestions you can give?
I think it was already answered, as you said.
Yes.
Public sector should be more efficient. Then they can reduce expenditure. So that's what he said. From our institute, we can help us to restructure organizations. Because we restructure HR professionals and change managers, we restructure companies. And so we will show them. Actually, we offered, some time back, we went to the public administration body and we offered, what are the loss-making institutes? We can do a consultancy free of charge. But it was not, taken, seriously. Also we offered, we will train the police officers free of charge. We can do training through our institute. We have the resources. But, proposals, we will mention those. And also, so our proposal actually, to cut down on government public expenditure, how to run the organization more efficiently and restructure, like in Malaysia, most of these government sector, they run through government private sector partnership, and the government collects the taxes through those organizations, but not from the people. Not, put the burden on people. So what we do is, we will, give a proposal. Also, I think I missed it earlier. Now, President was saying that, we must increase the GDP at 18%. But now see, the way the brain drain is happening, can we increase the GDP? So I think, so it will have, so we get to, if the people are leaving, then we would spend on training. But can the companies, afford on training nowadays? So I think when we give a proposal, we must say that, no, you have a fair taxing system, then we should be able to retain our people. Through that, we'll improve our GDP. So that's the way to go about.
Thank you, Mr. Ken. So I have a different question in this paper from Mr. Mifli, but I would like to have a different question now. So I was thinking about a different question from you. So since we have recorded 1,025 billion in 2019, what if we implement the same mechanism today? So for instance, if you take the taxes like economic service charge that has been abolished in 2020, so it was making around 55 billion for 2019. So I'm asking your personal opinion. I know that you are not a policymaker, so you cannot answer this. But as per your opinion, so if we implement the same mechanism like we had in 2019 with certain amendment, will that assist this problem? What do you think?
In fact, this is not my official opinion, this is my personal opinion. Our EPIT target or the payee target is 100 billion. Our total given estimated revenue target is 1,667 billion,
Yes.
nearly 1.6 trillion. So the total percentage of the payee tax of the total revenue is around 5%.
5%, yes.
But I don't think we will be able to collect more than 50 billion of the payee tax.
Yes.
When we compare with the previous year's payee tax achievement, if we could collect more than or around 50 billion, it is a great achievement.
Yes, but why I asked this question was that I was also in the same opinion that we would collect around 50 billion because we collected 49 billion out of pay in 2019.
Yeah.
So this social unrest can be resolved.
Yeah, that's why. So my point of view is, if we collected 50 billion EPIT or the payee tax, it is just representing the 2% of the total tax revenue. So instead of using the human resources for these EPIT taxes, if we could use these human resources to collect the huge taxes, for example, corporate taxes, which represent more than 90% of the total revenue, I think we will be able to collect or compensate these payee taxes. And also, as you said, the ESC was abolished in the 2019 December without any request made from the taxpayers.
Yes, from the public. There was no request from the general public in order to abolish, yes.
Yeah. Nearly 2019, we were able to collect nearly 49 billion ESC. Actually, ESC is a very good tax system because it is an economic service charge. ESC could be set off against the tax payable by any tax person, individual or the corporate sectors. If there is no any tax payable, for example, if there is a loss-making companies or exempted companies, ESC would be the final tax. Since they are using the economic infrastructures, they have to make some kind of contribution to the tax revenue. So that ESC was abolished. So as the professor, you said, reintroduction of ESC would be a better option instead of increasing the tax rates and reducing the threshold for the individual taxpayers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mifli, for your insightful answer and your opinion on that. So with that note, we can conclude today's discussion, Tax Forum 2023. So as concluding remarks, so as we highlighted, so we would like to highlight that with the current payee and EPIT regime, so the three principles of tax policy that is threatened and it is against the corporate governance and ethics. Hence, we as professionals, as we suggested, so as we proposed, so we will make a collaborative tax proposal and present it to the current government on how to secure the target tax collection while eliminating the social unrest and the heavy burden on the poor, lower middle and middle income professionals in the country. So at last but not least, I would like to thank our valued panel members today, Mr. Nuwan Gamage, President of Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, Mr. Ken Vijayakumar, President of CIPM Sri Lanka, Professor Lakshman R. Wattavala, President of CMS Sri Lanka, Mr. Tisan Subasinghe, Chairman, Faculty of Taxation, CS Sri Lanka, and Mr. N.M.M. Mifli, Deputy Commissioner General, Tax Police, Inland Revenue Department, for their tremendous contribution in making this timely discussion a success. Thank you very much. So it is over to you, Bernie.
Thank you very much, Professor Devasiri Jayanta, and a very big thank you to the panelists. Please remain on stage. Actions speak louder than words, and if we want to create change, we surely need to act on it, and we surely need to start implementing what we spoke of as well. So, let's hope, let's wish, and let's believe that they will surely speak to professionals and act professionally and create change as we always wanted to see in this world and country. With that, to present the token of appreciation to the panelists and the moderator, we would like to invite Mr. Gagan Pereira, Vice President, Events and Sustainability Project SLIM, and immediate past President of SLIM, Lanka Abewardana. Mr. Nuwan Gamage, President SLIM Sri Lanka. Professor Lakshman R. Vatawala, President CMA Sri Lanka. Mr. Ken Vijay Kumar, President CIPM Sri Lanka. Mr. N.M.M. Mifli, Deputy Commissioner General, Tax Policy and International Affairs. Mr. Tishan Subasinghe, Chairman, Faculty of Taxation, CA Sri Lanka. Professor Devasiri Jayanta, Honorary Secretary of SLIM Council of Management and Chairperson of SLIM Marketing Education and Research Committee 2022-2023. A very big thank you to the moderator and a very big thank you to the panelists who shared enlightening words, and let's hope for the best and let's do our best as well. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, let's put our hands together for the panelists and the moderator. Thank you very much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the vote of thanks, we would like to invite Mr. Gagan Pereira, Vice President, Events and Sustainability Project, SLIM.
Thank you, Bernadine. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. End of a very insightful session. I would say a very invaluable session. Lot of debates, lot of arguments, lot of opinions. I think that's why we created this platform. Whenever there is a current topic related to the country, the professional bodies should get together and have a forum to have ideas exchanged and also to create a hype about it. So I think that's our mandate as professional bodies. So I think this is the first step, and this could be a start for many. So with that note, and also I would like to highlight the three things that we gathered. I mean, three words we heard most frequently. So one is inefficiency, one is unaccountability, and the other one is discrimination. I think if us as professionals can get together and give counter proposals to arrest these matters, I think we have done our part to the fullest. So with that note, let me thank a few dignitaries for making this occasion or making this event memorable and very fruitful. So let me start with our Honorable President, Mr. Ranil Wickramasinghe, for gracing this occasion as the keynote speaker. Then Mr. Ruwan Wijewardena, advisor to the President, then honorable ambassadors and diplomats who are present here, and most importantly, the panelists, starting from our own President, Mr. Nuwan Gamage, President Slim, Professor Lakshman R. Watawala, President, CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. Ken Vijayakumar, President, CIPM Sri Lanka, Mr. Tishan Subrasinghe, Chairman, Faculty of Taxation, CS Sri Lanka, Mr. N.M.M. Milfi, Deputy Commissioner General, Tax Policy and International Affairs of Inland Revenue, then our moderator, Professor Jayanta Devasiri, Secretary Slim, then all the members of the Council and the Executive Committee of SLIM, our valued past presidents of SLIM who are present here, then our members of SLIM, then the members of the other professional associations, media, and all other distinguished invitees. Thank you for allocating your time for this most important, also bitter topic, but something very important for us to highlight. And also the people behind the show. So I want to recognize the effort of our SLIM Research Bureau, Panchala and his team, and also all the SLIM staff who are involved in this project in terms of organizing and making a very nice, glamorous event. And with that note, I would like to conclude my speech. I wish everyone a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gayan Pereira. And ladies and gentlemen, if someone asks you, what's your net worth? What are you going to say that? If someone asks you, what is your net worth? We should always be able to say that it is my network. So if you can build your network, if you can connect, and if you can really go the extra mile and do something great for yourself, for your country and the world, I believe that we can be proud of ourselves. True success and true happiness is where you can truly be happy for someone else's happiness and success. Live with integrity, be kind to people, and always be a wonderful professional, and you will be the change that you always wanted to see. Wish you all the very best. Keep smiling and keep flying high. And ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the SLIM song.
සම්පත ගනුදෙනු කරුවන්ගේ ආශාව නැකම් සපිරේ අප සතු රැස් කළ අලෙවිය දැනුමෙන් හඳුනා සේවා පුදමු බැතින් ජනහද රිද්මය දැනගෙන මැනවින් නංගමු ජීවන රටා තුටින් සුහදව හමුවන ශ්‍රී ලංකා වාණිජ තලේ එක දශයක් තුල සොහොයුරු හැඟුමින් ලක්ෂණතාවගේ හිතසුවේ සේවා නිපැයුම් නිස්කම් දස්කම් ඔබ කර පතුරන මුළු ලොවේ අලෙවි කරණයේ ආයතනයයි ස්ලිම් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ අප සතු රැස් කළ අලවිය දැනුමෙන් හඳුනා සේවා පුදමු බැතින් ජනහද රිද්මය දැනගෙන මැනවින් නංගමු ජීවන රටා තුටින් எங்காய் குழுவாய் அன்பாய் சந்திக்கும் ஸ்ரீலங்காவின் வணிக துறையிலே ஒரு கொடியின் கீழ் சோதர போலே இலங்கை மக்களின் மனமகிழ சேவை தயாரிப்பு படைப்பும் திறமையும் மெருகேற்றிய உலகெங்குமே சந்தைப்படுத்திடும் நிறுவனமே ஸ்லிம் ஸ்ரீலங்கா தானே.
To the people reaching out as one. Make marketing the driving force in this land.
Fill the hearts of all and thrill the souls in delight. Let's work together to make a better world. Make a better world. Sri Lanka vanija dale ekada jayak tula soyu hemme lakshanathawage hitasuve seva nipayum viskandaskam upakara paturana mulu love alavikaranaye ayatanayai slim Sri Lanka ve alavikaranaye ayatanayai slim Sri Lanka ve.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Do enjoy, do network, and always keep flying high and keep smiling. Thank you very much. Signing off, I'm Bernadine Jayasinghe. Ayubowan.